Hello navigation friends, John here with the Columbia River Orienteering Club in Portland, Oregon. Our video today covers one of my favorite topics, and that's pre-trip at-home navigation planning for wilderness travel. We'll learn how to use free web resources to give you just about everything you need for successful navigation in the backcountry. Today I'm working on a Mac computer, but you Windows folks, if you know how to copy and paste and do a screen grab, I'm sure can follow along too. Our demo is geared towards mountaineering, but the basic techniques work for cycling, hiking, cross-country skiing, or just about any other kind of backcountry trip. For our example today, we'll use a mountaineering peak in Washington State called Argonaut Peak. Let's start with a basic premise. A map is of course good to have, but a map with your route drawn on it is even better. The way that we draw your route onto a map is with a GPX file, so that's what we need to start with. You can think of this GPX file as a sort of universal file format for sharing geographic data, which could either be a point or a line or maybe both. An example of a point might be a campsite or a trailhead. A line would probably be the actual route that you might want to take. So where do we get a good GPX file? For mountaineering, a good place to start is Peakbagger.com. This site has an extensive collection of trip reports and GPS files for many mountaineering routes around the world. So let's go have a look. Peakbagger.com in a new tab on our browser. Now, this site looks like it was designed around 1995, but if you get past the kind of funky design, it's got some very helpful features. We're going to start by typing the name of our peak in the upper right corner, and notice our search results right here. Keep in mind that Peakbagger covers the entire world, so if you type in search for a common peak name like Table Mountain or Black Peak, you might get a large list of results. So knowing the elevation and location of what you're looking for can be helpful. Here there's only one Argonaut Peak, so let's click it and see what we get. This brings up the individual page for Argonaut Peak in Washington. Before we get into the GPS stuff, I want to point out a couple of things for you that can be helpful. Here we have selected guidebooks for this peak. If you want to purchase them or go to an excellent library to try to find them, you can do that as well. And down here on land ownership in the right corner, we can see that the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest is the management agency. So if you wanted to call to get permit information or fire closure info, that kind of thing, that can be a good place to go to. But what we're interested here is selected trip reports for this site. Notice here we've got 15 or so trip reports, and some of them note that there is a GPS track associated with them, which is really what we're after. So let's open all of the GPS tracks in a new browser window. In my Mac, I can just hold down my command key and click on these 6 or so trip reports that have a GPS file. And now let's look at the GPS files in this lovely little review window here in the bottom. Okay, for this trip report, we've got a file that kind of makes this circle with a tail heading out of the top right corner. That looks like it might be a good one. Let's look at this. Okay, this looks like the same route as the other one, but they didn't draw in the approach trails, which I generally like to use, so we're going to close this window and not use that one. Alright, this trip report has a similar looking GPS file to the first one. This guy looks like he climbed the peak, but he did a high traverse all the way across through the left and right. We don't want to use that one, so we'll close it. This GPX file has some strange lines running around the peak. We don't want that one either. And finally, this one looks like he approached from the south, which is an alternative to get up there, but that's not the one we want to use. So we're going to close out that one. So now we've got 2 to choose from that look pretty much the same. Knowing roughly where your trailhead is can be a good start to do this. And the idea behind looking at multiple different to make sure you get the right one that matches the route that you want to do, because Peakbagger does not really show you the actual route very well that you want to take. It just shows all the different GPS files that people might have used to get up that peak. So let's choose this final one that we have left, which looks good, And if we scroll down a little bit more, underneath the map, this is where the money is. Right here, download this track as a GPS file. Sweet, let's click that. And kabam, this is downloaded onto our hard drive. Now, let's go to Caltopo, where we started, and import that GPS file into Caltopo to make our map and do some other fun stuff. Mouse over import, click choose files. It goes to my downloads folder. I double click in that GPX file that I just downloaded. Click import here, and boom, we get a little red dot here. And notice on our left side of the screen, we've got 2 waypoints and a GPS file. If we click on either of these, it'll zoom us right into that spot. So let's do it. Well, okay, here is our route drawn in Caltopo. Let's have a look at the upper right corner of Caltopo, and that's our map layer. We're currently on a base layer of Google Maps terrain, which looks okay, but it's not ideal for making a map for the backcountry. What we want to use here is the very first layer, Map Builder Topo. So let's select that, and our map should redraw, looking a lot more clear and easier to use. Notice we've got some trails drawn in here, nice shaded relief showing ridges and valleys pretty well, and a little bit of vegetation shading showing above timberline and below timberline. So this looks pretty sweet. Let's zoom in on this GPS track and check out a couple more things. If we go into the start of the trail, we notice there's kind of a double track here. That means it was recorded on an out and back, which was pretty good. I also see that there's no waypoint marked at the car, so let's add one. We can mouse over where we want to add a point, right click, choose new marker. I'm going to type car in the label, tap enter. That adds a waypoint here and also adds the waypoint over here on the left side under markers. If we zoom out a bit more, we can also see that the trail follows, or the track rather follows an existing trail in. And right here before Lake Stewart, it looks like it starts cutting up into a climber's trail. So let's add another waypoint here. We'll call that climber trail. That could be very handy to know the correct spot to cut off the main trail to go up onto our route. Okay. Yeah, that all looks pretty good. If you want to edit the peak name, this says Argonaut Peak 1. That's kind of an odd name. We're just going to call that Argonaut. And if we want to change the color of the line or line symbol or any of that stuff, we can click on the edit button here to make those changes. Let's look at another very useful feature of Caltopo, and that is the elevation profile. Okay, under lines and polygons, if we click this little graph looking thing, it brings up an elevation profile on the bottom half of your screen. If I put my mouse in here and just drag through and now look up in the top part of the screen on the map, you'll see a little red dot that's moving along and shows you your elevation profile. This can be some pretty handy information. So here we see at about 2 miles, we see the cutoff to Kolchak Lake, and at about, what's that, 3.75 miles is the cutoff to the climber trail, which can help us with real-world mileage and knowing where we need to go. Here's a little Caltopo ninja trick for you. If from the profile window you click on expand, let's try that again, chick-chunk, chick-chunk, calculate elevation profile, but now we get a profile with the miles actually drawn in along with our waypoints at some key places, which can be pretty darn handy to use. Let's do a screen grab or a copy of this and put it in a Word document or a little word processing document that we'll build on as we go through this demo to give us more beta about the route that we can take with us. From here, let's click on PNG file. That opens another browser tab. We can right click, choose copy image, and I'm going to go to my little notes file on my Mac, which is a simple word processor program. We're going to paste this elevation profile in as the first bit of information on our beta sheet, which we'll come back to later and play around with some more. Let's close our elevation profile. Go back to Caltopo. We're done with this as well. And so we've got our route drawn in that looks pretty good on a nice base map. Let's print this puppy. In Caltopo, that is an easy thing to do as well. We're going to go to Print, click on Print to PDF or JPEG, opens up a new browser window here. And you will see that on the left side of our screen we can choose paper size, map scale, etc. Let's stick with our 1 to 25,000 here, and the red box shows the area that's actually going to be printed. We want to center that over our entire route. But as we can see, with that particular map scale, it's not going to quite go. I like to keep the scale at 1 to 25,000. And if you want to cover a slightly larger route like this, it's easy to do. Oh, one other thing, I always like to have a UTM grid on my map, and we do that on the left side by clicking UTM grid checkmark. But to add another map page, we simply click this green Add Page. We get another dialog box, or another print box rather, in red. I'm going to change this to Landscape, so it kind of prints right to left to cover the bottom part of our route, and I can drag that down here to cover the bottom bit. When we're all ready to go, we can click on Generate PDF. That's going to open another browser window, and with this particular map layer, it takes a couple minutes to chunk through and generate that file, so we'll give it a moment to do that. While we're waiting, let's go back to the main Caltopo screen and do a couple of things. We now have a GPX file rather, with a few additional marker points that we've drawn in. So let's export that via a couple of different file formats. Export, download GPX file, click on everything, bam, that goes to our downloads folder. Let's also export a KML file that's viewable in Google Earth. I think I've got Google Earth open, and if I double click on the KML file, okay, I think Google Earth has awakened. So if we launch that and also double click on the KML file that we just created in Caltopo, we can zoom in to our exact route, and we see the route drawn in Google Earth along with all of our waypoints, which is extremely helpful. So anybody famous who knows Google Earth is aware that we can easily blow a half hour here of zooming around and flying into our route. But there's more here than just eye candy. Okay, we can take some screen grabs here of the off-trail technical part of our route and take them with us for navigation while we're in the field. So to do that, you want to zoom and pan around a little bit and see what angle looks like it's going to be the most helpful. So this covers the area that cuts off from the climber's trail up to the top and then back down to Kolchak Lake. So that's a pretty good section to get. Let's grab this with a screen grab, and to do that we can go to the Edit button here, go to Copy Image, then let's load our beta sheet that we're working on and paste that image that we copied into the beta sheet. We're going to grab one more, so let's go back to Google Earth. Here we go. Let's zoom in a little bit more on the upper, more technical part of the route where we really might want some more detail. That gives a pretty good view of where we need to go. Again, Edit, Copy Image, and we're going to paste image into our little word processing document. Let's review what we have here. We've got the elevation profile, kind of a zoomed out image of the whole route, zoomed in image of the technical part of the route. That's about all we need from Google Earth today. So despite how fun this might be to blow another 10 minutes surfing around in it, we're going to shut this thing down. And let's go back to a minute to Caltopo and to our third browser window to look at the map that we made. We click on that tab, and here's a nice 3-page map. Notice it, while we only made 2 print boxes, Caltopo generates a third box for multi-page maps, and this is a more zoomed out big picture type thing. Notice at the bottom we've got a 1 to 50,000 scale. Our original scale was 1 to 25. And our next 2 map sheets look just like what we would expect. Approach trail from the car into the cutoff. And then the third page, gotta tilt your head sideways to see that one, but that's the more technical part of the route in landscape format as well. So we don't want to just close this window, we want to save this PDF file. So let's right click on this, do a save as. It's going to save to downloads. It's got this kind of goofy name of 125C. Let's rename it Argo Map so we know what it is. And now we've got a map. let's have a look at our downloads file and see what's going on over there. Everything we've downloaded so far. Notice the Caltopo does not give a nice name to your file like Argonaut, so we do need to rename that one so we know what it is. And same with the GPX file. A note on the GPX file here. If you have Gaia GPS loaded onto your smartphone, which I highly recommend as a great smartphone GPS app, this would be a good time to email this GPX file to yourself, open it in the app on your phone, and then you have that app, or the GPX file rather, ready to navigate with while you're in the field. That actual procedure is a little more than I want to cover on our video today. I do cover it on my Gaia GPS video that's on YouTube. If you search for Gaia GPS with Columbia River Orienteering Club as the author, you'll find that video and you can see the easy procedure of how to get that into your phone. Okay, so we've got a map, we got a KML file, a GPX file, and let's add a little bit more to our little word processing doc here about the beta sheet and we'll be pretty much done. Let's go back to Argonaut Peak, to the original page for that, and let's check on Julie's trip report here. I think I remember that as being kind of a good one. Okay, Julie was somebody who actually decided to write a rather in-depth trip report. So let's grab this puppy, copy and paste that one, and put it in to our trip notes. Now, there's probably some stuff in here that we don't really need to carry with us. I'm not going to go through and edit it now, but feel free to grab trip reports from here, or Peakbagger, Cascade Climbers, any other place on the web that you find some helpful information, and add it in to your beta sheet. So let's say we've got a pretty good collection here now. Trip report, elevation profile. If you want to get fancy, you could do some scanning of a guidebook and maybe put that in here as well. Let's export this as a PDF, and to do that in Mac, we click Export PDF. Away here for a sec. Downloads, thank you, save. We'll go back to downloads. And now we should have just about everything we need to go play. Peak beta sheet, we can either print this out or email it to yourself as a PDF file on your phone as a visual backup. We've got a map, again, printing that out. Ideally on a laser printer and maybe on waterproof paper would be a fine idea. You can also email the map to yourself to carry on your phone as a PDF as a backup to your printed map. KML, don't really need that in the field, but it was handy in Google Earth. And finally, the GPX file, which you can email to yourself to use on your phone. That's about it. You now have everything you need to hopefully have a successful trip in the woods to go climb Argonaut Peak. And now you know the tools to use this for any other mountaineering, hiking, objective, etc. that you might want to go try. Shoot me any questions you may have in the comments below. Hope you found this helpful, and happy navigation in the backcountry. Thanks for watching.